little video before we go on the ride. So the ride, I'm just going to talk about an update on my motorcycle, talk about the new Triumph Storm, and then some related stuff I'm going to use on that ride. So the one is, this is the Insta360, which I've been using. This is the X3. So I know the new one's out, so I want to quickly talk about that. But for those that interested, Jacques, is it worth getting the X4? I would say definitely, if you do not already own one of these. So if you want to hear the reasons why, follow me on the ride. So we're going to use the Insta360. I use earplugs, so I'm going to be using them. It makes a huge difference on your ride quality overall. It just takes off that high edge of the noise in the helmet and protects your ears. You can still perfectly normal hear your normal communication if you've got communication in your helmet, just slightly louder. But so earplugs for me are a very important one. My ODB link, so I've got the ODB MX Plus, what it looks like this. I use this to change the map on my motorcycle. I've done a video around that, but also I can use this now on the rest of my vehicle. So I've got Car Scanner Pro, and I can already, I've got a Isuzu. I can already see what's going on there, and the same thing. Checking error codes, clearing error codes, changing the way the windows work, and all those kind of things. So quite useful, and why I elected to get this one over something cheaper. So we're going to talk about that, and moreover how I think I've spotted a Triumph Storm map somewhere, or it's a prototype or something, or somebody uploaded the map, which is quite interesting. But I think that's what they used essentially to get that little bit of extra out of the new Storm. So ODB link, that out the way. The next one, Instamic. It's this little microphone I use for recording. This is what they look like. I've ordered some dead cats. They only had white. I really don't care. But what I want to get at is the microphones are actually on the side of the device. So I've inverted, because if you don't, these hairs are just standing everywhere. But this band essentially goes over the microphones, and this takes some doing, and I didn't want to take it off, but I wanted to show the microphone. Very nice. I use it a lot. So even if the hairs are on the outside, this is the type of fit you get, and you'll just get it a bit tighter, but then these hairs stand like that. So for my purposes, because I'm mounting it inside my helmet, and maybe let me quickly show you how I do that. These things come with brackets, but I've elected to use some Gorilla Tape to put something on the back of it. I can always peel this off if I want to use the brackets and then just put them back. But essentially, on the inside of my helmet, down there, you would see there is a Velcro strip. And so what we do is we just take this and we just put that on the Velcro strip, and that is then essentially right in front of my mouth. So let me just take this out. So that's how I'm currently recording it. So this is sitting very close to my mouth. So in the helmet, it's essentially sitting like this. So I use the software to pre-configure it, but I quickly want to show you how easy it is. You'll see the lights coming on, so it's booting up. and I'm gonna put on my Insta3 camera. And I've already configured this to be hands-free, so I just go here to the earbuds. I say Instamic, I say connect. This takes, I don't know, 5 or 10 seconds, so just be patient. There we go. Autopod's connected. So now, if I start streaming on this device, there we go. This is now the microphone. And you would see those lights going up and down as it gets the sound, and it's now streaming to this device. So if I record, this audio is then streamed directly into the video. So that's what I'm gonna do on this ride to show you what that is like. Great, so obviously not configured for this kind of talking. It needed to be closer to my mouth for the helmet. So see you guys on the ride. I don't think there's anything else I wanted to cover. So that's how easy it is, or supposed to be. When I do my ASMR, that beautiful exhaust note, and I'll put in a clip here if you want to listen. I'll finish up this video on that. I also use this, but I've got a bracket that essentially mounts on my rear hugger 2.5 inches away from the exhaust on the right hand side. So it's got a GoPro clip, it mounts on there, sitting on the rear hugger, the microphone slides in there, and that's how I record. This I obviously do in 32-bit float, so it's not sent directly to the video because I want the best possible quality, and then I just sync the audio to the video when I do the video. See you guys later. Good morning to the channel, everyone. Some wildlife in the distance. I'm going on the outride and we're going to talk about a few things, so we'll tackle that on the ride. But how nice it is to live in South Africa. And there she is. So let's go. Good morning, everyone. So that was a nice way of starting my morning. So on this ride, oh, maybe let me start from the beginning for those new. I like sharing my experiences so that others can learn from it. So, for lack of a better definition, I want to call myself an educator. Right, so I don't do reviews, I give you real life, my money, my investments, thoughts around the stuff I use. Around this motorcycle and so forth. So hopefully the microphone is going to sound a lot better. In the intro you would have seen where I placed it, so it's essentially right in front of my mouth. So the Instamic, I really like it. It's quite versatile. They keep making little updates and stuff to the firmware and how the system works. They ensure that everything is backwards compatible, which is fantastic. if you've got multiple of these mics, you can time sync them. So it's really packed with functionality, including 32-bit float. I've got it currently configured in 16-bit hands-free directly to the Insta360. So let's maybe talk about the Insta360 quite briefly. I've said if you're in the market for a 360 camera, I think the X4 is the way to go. If you've got an X3, I don't think I would recommend upgrading unless you really have got the money, and I want to, like everything else, just cite and justify that. So the X4 has got a huge jump in resolution. So for YouTube content, essentially what I record here, even though it's done in 5.7K, I think, whatever it is, when I reframe, that's only 1080 at best. And so if you're looking to give your audience higher resolution, then the X4 is going to be the answer. I can't recall the specs, maybe I'll link it in here, but it's big. So if you reframe in that, you can essentially get a high-end 2K file, which is what YouTube refers to as 4K. The downside to that is that the file sizes also significantly increases on the X4, and why I would recommend, if you've got an X3 and you're happy with what you're getting, I wouldn't upgrade. For those new, the X4 is the way to go, but you've got to consider file sizes. So if you record content like I do, which is quite long, then you get these massive files. And if I talk about massive files, sometimes I work with 20 to 30 gig files, and if you go to the X4, that's gonna essentially double or triple, depending on how you set the camera up. By the way, I record in log on the camera, so it's a very flat color profile, gives you the best video quality on this camera, and then I go and adjust or saturate the color slightly if needed in post-production. So that's the camera out the way. So let's talk about the motorcycle, because that's what the bulk of you come here for, is either to get information around the rocket, or you're interested in motorcycles, or you just find this content entertaining or educational. So whichever it is, question I've received is, Jacques, which rocket model to get? So they've got essentially two. They've got the R and the GT. This is the GT with some modifications. So Triumph's also launched a new Storm, also in a R and a GT configuration. What it is exactly this very same motorcycle. It is just now tricked out in black, and they've increased the power with software, which we'll talk about. But they're all, you get the R or the GT, the shape, and so forth. So which one to get? So let's start. If you are, I think, under 6 foot or under 5'9", I would recommend going with the GT. The reason, swept back handlebars, you've got a bit of a better reach. That makes a difference, especially if you need to maneuver the motorcycle or make a U-turn. If you haven't got the arm length to pull there, it can be challenging.
The other alternative is what I've seen is shorter riders on the R, they put risers on the bar, so they just bring them up a bit. That can resolve it as well, so that's something to consider. The GT comes with the forward controls essentially in this position to give it a cruiser style. I converted mine to mid-mounts and I raised them as high as they can go, which essentially gives it sports bike clearance, whereas in the forward position it's very easy to scrape the pegs, and these motorcycles handle fantastic. Not good, not great, fantastic. And no, Jacques, yes I know it's heavy, but it handles fantastic, irrespective of the weight. So those that say it handles okay but it's heavy, they don't know what they're talking about. That's the guy that takes the bike out for the first time. He doesn't own it, he doesn't ride it, he doesn't understand it, he hasn't set up the suspension correctly, he hasn't even checked the tire pressures. So that's just my take on it. We are doing highway speed, so I hope the voice is still great. Front vent is open, visor is closed. I'm also just going to put the sun shield is down. I'm not sure if this is going to make a difference up or down, but we'll see in post. So the other differences between the R and the GT is the GT has got heated grips, which is fantastic to have. I really love it. I never thought I would appreciate it in South Africa, but really heated grips is great to have in colder weather. Also, I just sometimes just put it on the lowest heat, just to put a little bit of heat in my hand. That helps for blood circulation and so forth, especially if you go on longer rides. And I've got big thin little summer riding gloves on with some vents. South Africa, we've got a lot of potholes, the rest of the world too. I think the size of our potholes is maybe that leads us in that category. And this bike does not have issues with potholes if you accidentally hit one. The front tire is a 150 with an 80 profile. It's very tall, it's a big tire, it can take a lot of absorption. And the same with the rear, that's a big bulky tire. The other thing is, the faster you travel, the less of a problem a pothole becomes. Because you've just got so much speed that the wheel and the suspension doesn't have a time to get into the hole. And now this obviously depends on how large they are. But I've by accident hit, if you were on a sports bike you would have been down and out immediately. And this just rode it beautifully. The weight's the other thing that helps keeping it stable, and the front forks that's got a slightly forward sweep to it for stability. It's got a sissy bar at the back for the pillion. The GT, the R does not have that. It's a very comforting thing to have for a pillion. If you're a rider, you don't know what it feels like, so if you're on a R and you're a very spirited rider, it's not fun sitting at the back. I don't care who you are, especially with the torque and the acceleration with this motorcycle. Whereas you've got that sissy bar behind you, you can essentially sit very in a relaxed position and not worry about stuff. Hier is 'n wit lyn, papi. I also do that, but in a car that is very, very dangerous. I essentially do lane splitting, but that move on a white line you don't do in a vehicle. So other than the foot position, the heated controls and the sissy bar, the motorcycles are exactly the same. So if you've only got access to a GT, if you put your hands essentially and you grip the levers like this and you sit like this, this is what the position feels like on the R. It's forward slightly more racing, where my hands is here is more slightly upright, more comfortable. The easiest way to steer this motorcycle is depending on what you prefer. If you've got a sports bike tendency to do that, works quite well, except you're not moving off your seat, but you use your outside leg on the fuel tank and you pull. So without me even using my hands, if I just put pressure there with my knee, the bike's going right. Same this way. So that's one way. So pushing on the bar into the turn and using your leg, the sports bike way, or you can do, which also works particularly well with this motorcycle, is more the motocross style, especially on the R. So upright, but you do this left and right, and you can also use your legs or your body weight to help with that. So on that, make sure you, like on a motocross bike or on any bike, you've got contact with your knees on the tank, your feet are on the pegs, you've got contact on the guards and on the inside, so you need to be connected to the machine with your upper body. The other difference for me, feel wise, as I said, all these motorcycles, the rockets are the same. They've got just a subtle variation in the geometry and how it's set up, which creates a totally different riding style or riding feel. And that's what many motorcycle manufacturers do. They've got a platform, and they just change the setup, geometry, look and feel. The bikes ride totally different, and you can produce 2 or 3 models just from that, if not more. Update on my motorcycle, had the rear brake recall done sometime. I spoke about it in my previous video, and that rotor that I thought was loose, but having spoken to a Triumph Tech and a Brembo Tech separately, that is how they are deployed, implemented, the rear brake. It needs to have that, so the brakes are perfectly fine. My rear brake did develop a bit of travel on it. Still working, but the travel on the paddle, right paddle, was becoming long. So found Triumph in Sandton. They are awesome people. They insured the Tech, had a look at my bike, took it for a test ride. He came back, he manually bled the rear brake, fixed the problem, we're moving on. Interesting thing, what he said riding this motorcycle, because I left it in sports mode for him, is he said you can feel there's an increase in power on the change I've made, but these bikes make a lot, so it's subtle if you don't know the machines. But he said moreover, what he found the biggest thing is it drives like a motorcycle with a carburetor, with a cable. If you twist, the response is exactly the same from the engine. There's no lag, there's no difference. It's doing what you're saying or putting in. So that is really nice. And that's essentially how I experience this motorcycle. So I haven't changed gears uphill, downhill, just roll on the throttle and the acceleration just keeps coming and coming and coming and coming and coming. So the tires on this motorcycle, the Avons, I'm very happy with it. You would have seen this motorcycle's got nearly 10,000 kilometers on. You can barely see wear on the center of the tire. You would know I ride quite spirited and a lot of the straight line stuff, so the amount of torque this motorcycle does eat tires. But after 10,000 kilometers you can only subtly see it starting to slowly lose its shape. And you've got to remember the rear tire is a 55 profile, so it's very wide and flat. It's a multi-compound tire, hard in the middle and soft on the edge. And I've nearly worn off the co-brush of my rear tire, so plenty of grip. I know Metzler, which is essentially Pirelli, is also making tires for this motorcycle now. I don't need to change. I think I can still get another 10,000 kilometers, which should be a total of about 20,000 kilometers on a set of tires. For me, I think that's quite reasonable. And then hopefully the reports would be up on the longevity of the Metzlers. Lots of police on the road early in the morning on the Metzlers, and then depending on what that feedback of its consensus are, I might give them a go. But off the bat, I'm very happy with the Avons. A lot of folks say, yeah, they don't perform in the rain. I really don't mind. I don't ride in the rain. If I have to, and if I do, it's happened once or twice, I just do it as clever as possible. It's a nice Alpha C4, I think. And that essentially is the update I wanted to give you guys. I'm gonna have a cup of coffee. Oh, the new Storm. Tricked out, matte black. Looks brilliant. Not my personal favorite. I like the contrast, as you would see, with chrome and dark areas everywhere. If you're into the blackout stuff, that is awesome to get. Based on the figures Triumph has released on those power increases on that motorcycle, it is similar to what I've got with the little tune I've got with Tune ECU, with a throttle map and the air fuel ratio table. I can't remember if there's anything I wanted to. Oh yes, fuel consumption. My fuel consumption has gone down by 1 kilometer on a liter. So I was getting around low 15 kilometers to the liter. I'm now getting low 14 kilometers to the liter. That is partly because the throttle is wide open and partly because of the changes to the air fuel ratio table, because it did make a difference. You can measure it. So I'm happy with my map. I just want to get through this traffic. The other thing is this motorcycle suspension, once you've set it up for your riding style and weight, is very good. These adjustable showers, fully adjustable at the rear and adjustable in the front without preload. Once you've gotten it set up, it makes a massive difference. If you are travel a whole lot heavier with lots of other heavier pillions on and luggage and stuff like that, you might start finding the limit of it, but in that case replace the internal valves or change the oil to something thicker. Just find a suspension specialist that can help you, and life is beautiful. But I'm talking about exceptions here. So I see you guys maybe later again if I think about something. Otherwise, thanks for joining the channel. See you guys later.